Okay, we are recording. So I am here with Mark Aaron from 2-Bit Podcast, uh, one of those infamous co-hosts of the Friend or Fed episodes that
Infamous is the word.
they get shit on all the time.
You got to get attention somehow, so we figured to keep it classy,
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
But,
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Tommy. Thanks for the
invite.
man.
I'm happy to have you here. This is I was thinking about it a while back. I was like, I got to get Mark on. Mark's a good dude. I haven't had him on before, so I wanted to get you on, and I thought this topic would be right up your alley because this is something I'll deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, and now that you've gone through trying to schedule something with me, you understand why I make very few appearances.
That's all right.
I don't make it easy for anyone.
No, that's all right. My schedule's so difficult to work with because I usually only have my schedule 2 weeks in advance. And a lot of podcasters are so busy. A lot of the people I'm talking to are really busy. So they want like a month's notice or 2 months. And you're like, oh, man, I'm like, I don't know. I can get back with you in 2 weeks and tell you where I'm at in a month.
Exactly. So, that's it. Yeah. You're stuck on one side or the other. There's either people who do this full time and they're booked up months in advance, or the people like us who do it as a labor of love, and it's a matter of balancing it with a lot of other responsibilities and trying to fit it in. So it's
right, yeah.
We go to great pains.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's fun though because you get to have some really interesting conversations. I wanted to. So we're going to talk about this whole infighting ordeal. It seems like, I don't know how it seems to you, but for me, I don't pay a lot of attention to the drama. I don't really care for it. I'm like, whatever. It bores me after a couple of days. I'm like, what are they fighting about now? And I'm like, all right, I've had enough of that. I'm going to move on to something else and do something else that is not so draining on me.
Yeah.
So what do you make of it? Because it seems to me that it's been one thing after another in short succession, and it looks odd from my perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely sus. It's determining on what level it's sus is a bit more intricate, I guess. But I mean, I sort of see it as kind of like I don't know if it's a necessary evil. I try and look at the silver lining of it all, which to me means that, like, if you look at, say, 5 years ago, when I think a lot of people were just kind of getting started, Tim Pool was still walking around at protests, and Crowder was kind of the only guy out there. Daily Wire was a blip on anyone's radar, compared to now, where it seems like they're starting to get cultural relevance. And we're getting to that point where everyone sort of dreamed of, like, okay, this is, Gutfeld is number one and Crowder's huge, Daily Wire's massive, they're taking over, I don't think you'd say they supplanted AM radio, but these people are having an impact, and this seems to be, at least in part, something that just comes along with getting to the top of the heap, where you're gonna, once you get that level of notoriety, people are going to start sniping. There's going to be drama. There's, whatever. Whenever you're at a certain level, people are going to be fighting for it. It's like any business. Once you get near the top, people start nipping at your heels. So I think some of that's just sort of inevitable with success. So I try to just sort of box it into that area and say, okay, well, that's what comes with the territory. And I wish they had a little bit more self-control in avoiding tarnishing themselves, but it seems to be, I guess I've got my expectations a little bit too high in that regard, because it's the temptation to get involved in the drama seems to be too much for them. Me, I try and avoid it. I don't even like talking about it on our shows, because then you're giving it. It's like a. Did you ever hear of like Eckhart Tolle? It's a sort of a spiritual teacher who was big on Oprah years ago, and he talked about something called the pain body. It's sort of when you get bad, negative feelings, they want attention, and when you give them attention, and then you end up, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that grabs more and more and sucks people in. And it seems kind of like that, and that just people are just not exercising the restraint to say, I'm not going to go down that direction. But go ahead, I cut you off.
No, that's all right. So that's kind of like a misery loves company kind of.
Yeah.
I was what I was going to say was it seems to me like the more these people talk, the worse they look. It really, in my perspective, it makes them look worse than it does who they're pointing the finger at.
Mhm.
Right? It's almost like there has to become a point when you're engaged in this infighting and this argumentation that you say, look, we agree on 90% of the worst things in the world going on. And we're trying to fight that 90%. Like, why are we focused on this BS? It seems like such a distraction.
Yeah.
And as it becomes more and more of a distraction, it's tearing people's attention away from what's actually happening. You know, the World Economic Forum, we have the 15-minute cities, we have ESG digging in its heels, and all of these things kind of get pushed up under the rug so that everybody can focus on this little spat, like a bunch of little high school girls
Yeah.
freaking spreading rumors and screaming and scratching and pulling hair and whatever the hell else they're going to do. And it's like, all right, like, to me, at the more you do that, the worse it makes you look, because it makes you look in opposition to fighting the actual concerns people have with what's going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because sort of for a while, the predominant sort of perspective on right versus left was that the left was this circular firing squad, this unstable coalition, and the right wingers kind of, even though we're outnumbered and outgunned, we at least had principles in common and certain values that would create a cohesive culture. And then when you see it devolve into, you described it perfectly. I mean, this is a high school clique, rumor mill, bottom rung bullshit.
Yeah.
It's disappointing to see that, but again, I don't know if it's just maybe it's a necessary cleansing mechanism to see who actually are the principled people, who are the people who really don't care to gossip and snipe about meaningless things. But yeah, it's weird how it looks almost coordinated at this point. Like it's just bang, 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 bang. But it's also interesting how the people who seem to be in the drama right now are not the people who are showing up first in my queue.
Mm.
You know, like they're kind of people that I'm aware of in the periphery. Maybe I watched them a couple of years ago, but yeah, I don't know. Is this the right wing purity test? And are purity tests good?
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you're talking about Jim Bob and Owen Benjamin,
It's one of them, but I mean, look, it's the same Crowder and Daily Wire. Jim Bob and Owen Benjamin's
oh,
hard
well,
to think because I've been an
the
Owen
most
Benjamin.
recent. So
Yeah, I mean, well, they're all of a similar vein, right? But
yeah,
there's the Tim Pool with what's her name?
Eliza
Eliza.
Blue, yeah, and then we have the whole Sydney Watson lawsuit that seemed to be festering underneath the surface for quite a while. That popped up, and it
Can you
just
bring me
popped.
up to speed on that one? Is that the Tucker thing?
No, that apparently Elijah Schaefer had been sexually harassing her,
Oh
and
shit!
she had brought it up to management, and that's why their show got canceled. And
I
then
wasn't even aware of any of this.
so she left the Blaze, and Elijah was still there, and apparently he grabbed oh, I can't think of the girl's name now. She does that show, The News and Why It Matters, that Hispanic lady. I can't think of her name.
I got nothing.
Anyway, doesn't matter what her name is. He grabbed her boob at the Christmas party when he got drunk, and so that's why they ended up getting rid of him. So it's so Sydney Watson in the midst of, so you had the Crowder Daily Wire, then you had the Eliza Blue crap pop up, and Tim Pool was in it, and then he was out of it, in it, and out of it. And in the meantime, the Sydney Watson lawsuit pops up, and she's suing the Blaze, and I
Yeah.
think she's also suing Elijah Schaefer. And then
Oh,
So
and there's O'Keefe too. Same thing, similar,
yeah, Project
right?
Veritas. There you go. Yeah, I forgot about that one too.
Yeah.
So it's like this really strange, and it's just the way everything's fallen in line. It's really kind of, I just keep saying psyop. It's all a psyop.
It
Like
does seem like it.
it just seems so constructed.
Yeah. Well, that's what. Other than, I mean, because I think the Owen Benjamin versus the
That I think is,
Ortho Bros is kind of a separate thing. I
yeah, I
don't
think
think
that's a
that's, whereas you
separate
have like
ordeal.
Big
Yeah.
Con is all of them. Like, because I easily throw Tim Pool, Daily Wire, The Blaze, all these guys in sort of like the same bucket.
Mm.
And I wouldn't really feel bad about it because there's a similar thing. Like, they've all kind of signed on to like, hey, this is where we're making our money. And because of that implicit contract, there are topics we don't really go near. There's a certain restrictions that they acquiesce to because of jumping on that. Like, this is the, I don't know, the official, I don't know what the right term is for it. I think understand what I mean by that. Like,
Right.
it's Big Con. I don't know if, like, I wouldn't call it selling out. Like, I think that's cliched, but there's a certain there's an implicit contract once you've sort of signed. I wouldn't know if it's a deal with the devil, but Jordan Peterson, same thing. Jordan Peterson's going around promoting war and interviewing Netanyahu.
I miss this.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this.
he's saying he's being John McCain 2.0. He's singing "Bomb Iran."
Is he hanging out with Lindsey Graham?
It's something. I mean, this is like same thing with, I used to be a big fan. One of the first conservative people I ever subscribed to was Dave Rubin, right? When he left the Young Turks.
Okay.
And that's where I came across a lot of people, Michael Malice, libertarianism, even as a concept. That was my introduction to that. And then you see him sort of get on that same thing. And yeah, I always come to the same, I don't know. This is an interesting conversation because I haven't been able to define how I feel about where this drama comes from. But
well, here, let me run this by you, because this is something that I was just kind of tossing around in my head while you were speaking. It separates the wheat from the chaff, right? You said, like, people like you and I, we do this. It's a labor of love because we're working around our families, our schedules, our work schedules. We have full-time jobs. We do other things. And, I have chickens and dogs and 9 acres. And there are a lot of things I could be doing at this very moment rather than recording our conversation. Shit, we could be having this conversation while I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner with my wife. You know what I'm saying? I could have you on an earbud and we could have this exact same conversation. So, and I told my mom, just in as a side, I told her one time, I said, it's really funny whenever you find out that thousands of people want to listen to your phone calls.
It's so true. I mean, that's for our show. That was literally the inception. We're like, why don't we record this?
Yeah.
And okay, it took us a year to make it really worth paying attention to, but that's it was one of those things, like, let's just do it until we get good at it. And it's there. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Then there is I think a stark difference, because when you're not, obviously we're not monetized, we're a tiny show. It is a labor of love. And then also there's consequence to speech.
Hold on, let me finish this thought before I forget, because I took us off the path. Now you're going somewhere, and I'm like, I want to make sure I make this point real quick. When you see these guys that are so enraged and enthralled in this drama, and this, I mean, there's no other way for me to put it other than cattiness. Nothing more feminine than watching a man throw a fit on camera and publish it in hopes of getting likes and money. And you come to realize that these people don't care about the subjects they're talking about. They only care about what is going to benefit them. And when I started doing my podcast, it was so that I had a recorded diary for my children. So it's a completely different project in my mind. What I do here on the podcast is completely different than what those guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost as if it exposes them for being grifters, and that the only thing that does matter to these people is the attention and is the income that they
Mm-hmm.
can pull away from the listener or the watcher in order to benefit themselves.
Yeah. Well, I wonder again about that, how much of it is inevitable with your income coming from it, and B, being of a certain level of notoriety. I was listening to, I think it was Owen Benjamin on Pete's show, and he was talking about something, and I remember watching his show, and these people, they're getting, we get comments on our show, we get stuff, but I don't get bombarded,
Hmm.
and I don't get people coming at me.
Hmm.
I'm always amazed because I feel, like anyone, I think I'm normal in this. Like, I think half the shit that comes out of my mouth is borderline retarded, and I'm like, okay, I can't believe that there aren't more people going on every show and just, taking me to task, and it rarely happens. So I'm amazed at that. But I can imagine that once you hit a certain level, that the amount of noise coming your way is a lot, and then there must be something where if it's someone of a certain stature or a certain relevance who comes at you, I can understand the the desire to engage on that. So I give them some forgiveness, but then if they're going back and being just as petty and starting this back and forth stuff, that's where it's really hard for me to keep any amount of respect for them, to even want to keep listening to them. Because it's I don't care about your cat fight
Yeah,
with
oh,
like what.
okay, dude, your pee hurts. We get it. Now, can we talk about something
Yeah,
of importance?
that's the worst
What?
thing. Like, and it's even I get so annoyed when I put on a podcast and they're talking about their gripe with somebody else for the show. I'm like, why did you record that? Why did you release it? How is that interesting for anybody?
Mm,
And even if it is interesting to some people, how is it constructive? How is it positive? Like, what are you adding to the conversation? Like,
mm,
when I look at our show, your shows, a lot of people's shows, I do this because in the past couple of years, obviously I'm married, I've got kids, I've got family. I care about my culture, I care about my country, I care about my community. And a lot of time I was like, okay, I don't know what I can do out there, because I happen to live in a province. I can't run for office because I don't speak French. I can't get on the school board because my kids aren't in school anymore. They're in university, and I don't know how to break into McGill. It's a pretty closed ecosystem. So it's like, okay, well, at least I can do one thing that I've gotten paid to do for a long time, which is talk.
mm,
And whatever that does, at least maybe it will. I don't think I'm brilliant, and I'm expanding people's minds with my great insights, but at least I could be uh, someone who inspires courage in other people to talk
mm.
and to not be cowardly. And so, okay, this is my one thing I can give. And so it really is a labor of love in that sense. And then to see people that are doing it for, again, money or clout or whatever, it's disappointing. But
Well, and what makes me laugh is these people act like there's some prestige to being able to open a computer, turn on a camera, and speak into a microphone. And it's like, no, dude, I'm a truck driver and I do it. So, like, like you're not special, you
yeah,
know? Well, I
yeah.
read this book. Oh, wow, I have that book too. I read it too. Like like to me, it's like, what are you adding to the conversation? How are
Yeah.
you tying these threads together? And a lot of these guys seem so invested in only their own reputation that they don't care about the conversation. It's like I will defend my reputation to the expense of the American people in getting them the information that they need in order to better themselves and protect themselves from what's coming down the pike. That I'll just completely ignore that, and I'll
Mhm.
just talk about myself and how my feelings got hurt, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, to me, it's the equivalent of a comedian getting on stage and telling nothing but dick jokes. You know, it's
right.
like,
When you
okay,
could be, who's that guy?
one or two are funny, but come on, man. Like,
Yeah. When you
there's
could be
some
George Carlin, right? You could
right.
be someone who's, the point is, whatever medium you have, this isn't, I forget the name. There's a famous Canadian futurist who said the medium is the message.
Mm,
And I think there's some truth to that, but that's not, but getting on and talking, to contradict exactly what I just said, you should have at least some kind of point to it other than clout. Even if
yeah.
that point is just as shallow as mine, which is just to have the courage to speak publicly, even about topics that, especially, you know, where I live. I mean, I'm in the belly of the beast in Quebec, Canada. Right? This is, if you want to talk about the furthest left place, you know, we could give LA a run for their money. And so I'm just, you know, demonstrating courage by speaking. But yeah, I don't know why make it about the drama. And even like, okay, this conversation, I'm struggling because I want to keep bringing up specific instances, but then I feel like if I do, now I'm just talking shit about somebody,
Well,
and I don't want
you're
to do that.
just
I'd rather
giving,
keep it
yeah, you're
on,
just adding fuel to the fire.
right?
Yeah, I get it. I got a specific instance for you though. We can talk about. It has to do with Canada, so we
Okay.
can chat about this because this is one that not a lot of people know about. So one of my best friends, Gordon McGill, he's done some writing for Newsweek. He started his own podcast, Autonomous Truckers. No, it's the
Okay.
voice of Gord. Autonomous Truckers is his Substack, but the voice of Gord is his podcast. And he's been covering. He covered the trucker protest when all that was going on, and he no longer lives in Canada, but he has a lot of contacts up there.
Did he leave because of the lockdowns?
Oh no,
Oh, no?
he left a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
He left for trucking. He's he's been he's driven in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and US. He even did ice road trucking for a while. I mean, he's been all over the place doing all kinds of trucking. But so he wrote an article a while back about a guy who has a podcast up there in Canada. The name of the podcast is The Raging Dissident. The guy's name is Jeremy McKenzie.
Okay.
So Jeremy McKenzie was real active within the excuse me, he was real active within the trucker protest. And when they froze all the accounts and of the truckers so that they couldn't survive up there and continue the protest, they also froze his account.
Oh, really?
Well, as they've unfroze all the other accounts, his account's still frozen. And he's been
Jesus.
arrested
Still?
like, yeah. And he's
Wow.
been arrested like 3 times. And they were even talking about him in Parliament one time because he made a joke on his podcast.
Oh, is he the Diagolon guy?
Diagolon. Yeah.
That's my favorite meme. Let's get me canceled.
So, but all these right wingers that were involved in the trucker protests have been throwing him under the bus.
Oh, shit.
To save their own ass. So, I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's that what's more important, right? Your personal security and the money that you're taking in, or the message that you're trying to spread, and creating these alliances that can spread that message.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting topic because it's multifaceted, and there is a bit of danger there because there was not just him. There was a couple other people who were prominent, and I wasn't really in with any of them. I was there. I drove up to Ottawa every weekend. Was there for most of the protest. I donated to everything. I didn't get my money frozen, but it got given back to me because they refunded all the donations to Give Send Go, or to the, not Give Send Go, the first one, and then I redonated to Give Send Go. And there were a couple people involved, Pat King, who were sort of well-known influencers that I'd never heard of. And so when I saw them becoming prevalent, I'd look them up and I'd watch some of their videos, and like, part of me, I was really supportive of them because I'm like, okay, this protest is a great thing. This is absolutely a positive movement. It needs to happen. I think still, like, I know Owen Benjamin's been talking shit about it the whole time, and I still respect him, but I think he's dead wrong. I think it
Mm.
was really important. I think it had a massive impact. I think it had a global impact. And unless you were there on the street, you didn't know what it felt like to show up when we'd been locked down for a year plus, no restaurants. I mean, I hadn't gone to a restaurant in 9 months, and
Mm.
this is my life. This is my business. It's going out, I'm out most nights of the week. It was really heavy. We had a curfew from 8 p.m. You couldn't buy cigarettes. You couldn't buy a beer. You couldn't go anywhere. Stores were closed. Everything was closed. And then to show up and see 1 million people in the streets celebrating party, like the biggest party, a block party that was the entire downtown. It was monumental. And just to feel that camaraderie and to see, okay, not only am I not alone, we're the majority.
Mm.
And there were so many people, the cops couldn't do anything. They brought in police from every province, and they were still outnumbered hundreds to one. So it had this a great feeling. So, but there were a lot of different disparate elements involved, and you would look up some, and I'd watch some of their videos, and half the shit they say is bad, off like really far, like Jesus, oh my God, like, okay, so I'm associated with them tangentially, but you don't necessarily want to co-sign every word that comes out of their mouth. And so that's an interesting place to be in. It is reminiscent of high school in a sense, where you're kind of thrown into the same place with a lot of people, and you're kind of forced to get along, because this is the first time in my life, I don't know how many generations it's been since, maybe, I don't know if we've ever been in a circumstance quite like this, where we're under attack from every side, and finding allies, or I don't know if there's a better term for it, but you know what I mean? People, kindred spirits. You want to associate with them. You want to work together. You want to push for liberty and law and order and just some semblance of sanity. But at the same time, you got to be careful, because everyone needs to have some amount of judiciousness in who they let in their circle. So every instance is different, I guess, of where I'm getting at with that long.
Yeah, but we can look at, let's just take, for instance, like the Summer of Love, right? And you had Antifa and Black Lives Matter burning down cities, and leftists out there protesting alongside them, and they refused to throw stones at them. And the right has this tendency to throw stones at its own people. Well, that's not the way I would have done it, so I'm going to go after that person. It's like, no, just pretend that person wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I heard that today. Someone said, and I thought it was great. They said the left protects the left and cancels to the right, and the right protects the left and cancels to the right.
Yeah.
So
sounds like something Tho Bishop would say.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know who originated it, and I'm not going to give credit. But at the same time, I also see that as a bit of their Achilles heel. It can get in the way of a lot of leftist movements, that they don't call out their bad apples. They leave themselves open to a lot of criticism there. Obviously, the criticism doesn't go far because they've got the entire cathedral behind them.
Right.
But I think that there's value. I mean, when I've said it many times, when my kids went and protested with BLM, and they knew Antifa was there breaking windows and stuff, and I said, if you go there and you're with that crowd, you're co-signing what they do. Okay, so
guilt by
Ottawa,
association,
it's going to happen. And if you're going to say, if you're going to associate or sign on with a specific group of people, then you're obligated to moderate their behavior to some degree. So same thing, like if I was in Ottawa when that one jackass with the Nazi flag showed up, I'd be getting him the hell out of there. So it's okay, listen, this is optics. This looks, it's going to be used against you. It's stupid. I'm not going to defend the guy. I'm going to say, put the flag down. You look like an idiot and you're making us look like idiots. Even if you've got some kind of weird explanation, like I'd heard that, he's there calling the liberals Nazis. Liberals are our Democrats. I don't care. Your optics are shit. Stop it. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that the right wing polices, because I think I think maybe there's something about that is just an element of maybe more masculine, maybe more fatherly, where the mother embraces, but the father will chastise.
Have you seen how they're policing? It doesn't sound masculine.
Yeah, touche. I'm doing a lot of devil's advocate right here. There's the right way and the wrong way, and starting drama and sniping at each other's heels is it's again, if you're wasting your time, if you're wasting your content on that, that's where I get annoyed, and I don't want to tune in to hear what you think. And
I mean, I'm not listening to any of these people at the moment. None of them, not one of them that's involved in drama, because I don't care. I'm like, nope, I'm up, turn it off. I don't care. 30 seconds of it, nope, that's too much. I don't need any more of that. I'll go find something else to listen to. Right.
Well, and I think
because there are a lot of people out there doing good work, you know, and so it's like, why do I want to sit here and listen to you bitch, moan, and groan about, you know, your personal life, or how such and such hurt your feelings, or what? I didn't like the contract that they offered me. Whatever, man. Who cares? I don't even have a contract. You know, like, who cares?
Yeah,
you know?
I think there's a lot to be said about learning how to cooperate, even though you disagree on some things. So, like with Jason and myself, he's gone very strong into the orthodox thing, which I see a lot of people doing. It seems to kind of be the trend, so I'm automatically averse to it. But we can not see eye to eye on things and still have a you know, a shared goal, which is, okay, even if, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily in disagreement with orthodoxy. I'm like, okay, well, if that works for you, then that's your thing, and I wholly encourage you to go in the way that works for you. So I tuned into the Owen Jim Bob debate, because I thought, okay, here's an interesting debate. I might learn more about both sides, because I'm raised Christian, but I never really went deep into the theology of it. You know, I just sort of was just all around me. And so I thought, okay, interesting debate, opportunity to learn. Turned off the debate about halfway through because it just got a little too chaotic. And then you hear about all this carrying on afterwards about stuff that's not, like, once it turns away, what's the saying that great minds talk about ideas, mediocre minds talk about people?
No,
I think I got it in reverse.
I think it's things, and then idiots talk about people, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like stupid people talk about people, mediocre people talk about things, and smart people talk about ideas. And as soon as the conversation,
and the irony of that saying is you're talking about people while you're saying it.
Hey, don't point out my
I think that was Roosevelt's wife that said that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was
but you know what I mean? As soon as the topic changes from the idea to the people, I'm out. It's not it's not interesting to me anymore. So again, that's why I'm trying to keep this one on to the ideas.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you, because you actually have some interesting insight. All right, let's talk about this diagolon thing. Is this still a thing?
I have no idea. So I've only heard about it again, like through, I don't even remember where, kind of on the media.
Okay,
because there's so many people, there's so many influencers. I don't know who they are.
Explain it to the audience so they understand what it is.
I'll tell you what I know. I'm probably wrong about all of it.
Okay.
So what I know is it's a couple of podcasters who, okay, so this is like, what did I see? There's something like, so Scott Adams today on Twitter, he's saying that he didn't know that it's okay to be white is actually a Nazi phrase. So there's layers here. So everyone, okay, no, you're frozen.
No, so, I was just like, really,
this,
like,
you know how this, you know how this means white power.
Yeah, and milk is racist. Yeah,
right. Everything's racist. Which, if you have any sense whatsoever, you understand that this is a troll.
That's why I just froze, because I was like, wait, no.
Okay, so hear me out.
You did not really say this.
I'm telling you. And so it's all. There's a lot of trolling, which is showing that these people will be intentionally stupid, right? They'll go for anything that pushes their narrative, which is that everything's racist. And so it's okay to be white was the same thing. If the whole thing was, I know there's like a smart term for it, but where you make their reaction is the play, and it's so it's okay to be white was I don't know who started it. I don't give a shit. The point was the idea, and the idea was watch people freak out about this.
Meltdown. Yeah.
And their reaction is the point. And the media does not seem to get this. They always go with it all, they're headlong. They're like, okay, we buy it 100%. Tell us anything is racist. We will run with that. No critical thought whatsoever. We're all in. And so I said, the only thing racist about It's Okay to Be White is people's reaction to it.
Mm.
And so obviously they did the poll, and Scott Adams read the poll, said, okay, I don't know if you're aware of the drama with him in the past week.
No.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I haven't paid attention to Scott Adams in like 3 years.
Oh, you're missing a good show. So Rasmussen did a poll and asked, I don't know how many, bunch of black people, is it okay to be white? And 47% said either, I think, no or not sure. And so Scott Adams is like, okay, well, that makes them a hate group, and get as far away from them as you can. So obviously that blew up in the media. And then everyone after him said, well, it's okay to be white is a Nazi phrase. He's like, well, I didn't know it's a Nazi phrase. And they're like, that's the only reason they said no is because everybody apparently that took this poll was aware that it's okay to be white is akin to White Lives Matter, which is also Nazi. Ridiculousness. So anyways, along that vein, Diagolon is the same thing. So a couple of YouTubers in Canada came up with the concept of a country that runs from Alaska down through the middle of the states to Florida.
Yeah, what it was the states that didn't have lockdowns or mask mandates or something like that.
Similar to that, I think there's also demographics to play into that. I mean, if you look at just even the voting map, it plays the same way through Canada. The center, we're reverse of you. Here, our conservatives are blue and our liberals are red. But down the center is where the conservatives are, and then it goes right down the center of the U.S. and from Alaska, basically down the middle and into Florida.
Mm.
And so they're going to separate and make a country called Diagolon, where the conservatives are, and that's it. That's as far as I know. That's as far as they took it. And then this is
I think it became like a running joke. Because they had like merchandise too. They were selling like hats and stickers. So it was something that went on for a long time. It's
funny. A big troll. Same as This Means White Power, right? And you see who falls for it, and you know who's they're either completely retarded or they're intentionally being, thick.
Yeah.
And so that's Diagolon, but it got in the press here. They were talking about it in Parliament. On a terrorist group.
I couldn't believe they wasted their time in Parliament talking about two shit posters on a podcast getting drunk. Ultimately that's what they wasted all the tax dollars for that day to talk about two shit posters on a podcast getting drunk and just saying things.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I mean, I'd rather our government be doing that than passing the kind of laws they're passing up here. And
I know, but these people
try
to act so serious though.
Yeah.
And like they're above all that. How can you not laugh at them? How can you not ridicule them?
They make it too easy. And I'm never short of amazement watching these people who claim to be serious and the people who believe them. And I'm never quite sure. It's like, are they intentionally playing dumb?
Mm.
Like either they're dangerously stupid or dangerously deceptive. Either one's not a good answer. But anyone going along with this stuff, like it's scary.
They look for any excuse to grab power, and that's really what it boils down to. Because like what happened with this guy Jeremy McKenzie, who it was on his show, The Raging Dissident, that this all happened. And they ended up putting him on no-fly list. They called him an insurrectionist. He's been, like I said, he's been arrested like 2 or 3 times. He's got a non-disclosure, a gag order leveled against him, so he can't talk about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's fighting in court trying to get the gag order lifted. He was supposed to come on my show a few months ago, and then suddenly he disappeared. And my buddy that knows him was like, yeah, well, this is what's going on. And I'm like, oh my
Shit.
God, this is out of control. So yeah,
Well,
he's
I
been
mean, you know that they're on the right side of history when they have to gag their opponents, right?
right.
And
Yeah,
that's going on a lot here.
he's been labeled a white supremacist and
You're all the names.
everything you can imagine. Insurrectionist, leader of a terrorist organization, just all kinds of crazy shit because he told a joke. Like,
well, listen, that's tyrants. That's their Achilles heel, right? And that's what they'll go after stronger than anything is if you mock them. And that's what they can't stand because they're a clown show. I mean, I heard someone say, stop calling it a clown show because these people are dangerous. And okay, fine. Good point.
So is Pennywise.
Right. That's true. They're that kind of clown show. Yeah, these are murderous clown show. But I think it's our job to mock them. And it's interesting because there is a truth there. Right. The most dangerous thing to them is a gag like this that shows how ridiculous they are. And then they respond to it with the appropriate amount of ire for something that is that dangerous. So it's a war on a different level, you know?
The only person that could tell the truth to the king was the jester.
Right.
It's that kind of thing. It reveals it. It's almost like holding a mirror up to them and showing them their own absurdity so that they change their behavior.
Yeah. But right now they're doubling down.
And the tyrannical king kills the jester.
Exactly. So for anyone, it's a great illustration for anyone who's watching authentically to see, okay, it points out tyranny very well, but be warned when you're going to, even if it's high level and even if it is sarcastic, there's the tyrannical leader sees the truth in it and will prosecute you as if you had done a true crime, because to them it is, right? Mocking a Trudeau or any a corrupt prince they'll bring down the hammer on you hard, whether they have an excuse or not. I was saying that they did the same thing with Tamara Leach, who was the leader of the convoy. Same thing with her, gag order. She's not allowed on social media. She's not allowed in Ottawa. They did the same thing to, there's a father in British Columbia whose daughter was transitioned against his will. And if he speaks about it to the press, he can go to jail. Gag order on him. I mean, it's you think it's bad in the US. Canada is
I've heard of Tamara Leach.
Mm-hmm.
Oh crap! Why did I do that? Okay, that was
smoke
dumb.
in the eye.
No, Serrano in the eye. I made pico de gallo before I came on the podcast, and I just scratched my eye, and yeah, that was stupid. That's gonna burn for a minute. But do you think that Trudeau's father would be proud of him? Because I have a feeling. Well, I was talking about the father, the black
Which
hat,
one?
the one with the beard.
Okay. Okay. they're both terrible, the same amount of awful. Well, so
no, because here's what I'm saying. He comes from this. I don't know who his real dad is. I'm just making a joke there. Yeah. But it seems that he had this reputation, like because of his lineage, that he was supposed to be this really strong, masculine, like leader, and he's such a puss, man. I don't understand it. I don't understand how the people of Canada can look at him, just like I don't understand how the people of America can look at Biden and go, oh yeah, it's okay. Like, I just don't understand. It's like, no, get this dude out of here. He's going to get us all killed.
You'd think, right? I mean, it's in Canada, there is the legacy because his father, despite being absolutely horrific, is revered up here like a god. I mean, the Trudeau legacy is just, I mean, I live a couple of miles from where their family's been for 100 years. I can see his house from here, and the airport's named after him. The legacy in Canada is probably the number one. I think of any Canadian family, they're the most notorious, the most well known, and so there's a cachet that comes with just being Justin Trudeau that's going to get a certain swath of the population, and he could just be, you know, smelling his farts all day and they would worship him. So you have to account for that. The other, I think what it comes down to is just tribalism. He's the guy who represents our side, and I don't care. It's the same thing for Biden, right? It's the will to power. He's got the will to power. They don't care how he gets it. I don't know if you saw the clip of him this week screaming at the protesters. He threw a pro-Ukraine rally. He was wearing a scarf with Ukraine on it, Ukrainian flags in the background, and people were telling him to fuck off, as they do everywhere he goes now. And he just started screaming at them, and they were worshiping him for it. Just because his dad's most famous line was "Just watch me." When during the FLQ crisis here in the late 60s, early 70s, he was the only other person to outside of actual war to use the War Measures Act, which now they refined into the Emergency Measures Act, and he's adored for it. The Canadians have a penchant for authoritarianism, that it's not discussed. It's sort of under the carpet, but people here, especially on the left, they love it. They're like, yeah, crack down. They love the hammer. They love that. They want that boot on their neck.
That's
and
crazy.
It's because they're like, our side's winning and we will fuck with you.
That's crazy because I've never met a Canadian that was like that.
Right?
Like, yeah.
Not overtly, not in person, but politically, yeah, there's an undercurrent here that I don't know if it's intentionally hidden. I think most people here aren't even aware of it, but they exercise it.
Really? So do you think that's why what do you think that plays into the division amongst the conservatives in Canada and what's going on, and why they're throwing, you know, like Tamara Leach and Jeremy McKenzie and these guys under the bus and just kind of letting them?
That's a tough call. It's almost an oxymoron, Canadian conservatism. Because as a country, we've prided ourselves on being progressive. The only time the conservatives were, at least in my adulthood, the only time they sort of were in power, they were literally called the Progressive Conservative Party. Right? The only way they could even beat the left was to imitate the left. Right. And so we never really even had. And I think part of this was just because of our environment. Such a large country, such harsh conditions, such low population, that anything that was conservative was pushed on us by the landscape. And we never really had the population base to go kind of crazy left, because we were just sort of faced with the harshness of life that breeds a certain amount of conservatism. But in our polity, it was always far left. We're really proud of being like Europe in North America. And so the idea of actually going through and saying, okay, what are conservative principles? What we've never done. We've never had to have that discussion. So our conservatives have always just been liberals, light liberals. And now for the first time since I'd say around.
That would be like Rebel News would have caused that, huh?
I think they're more of a symptom of it. It really was like, okay, so
it explains why they're hated so much, though.
Yeah, right. Even by the so-called conservatives in Canada. Right. I mean, our conservative party this is why I really liked what Donald Trump did. This is why I liked MAGA, because it was reminiscent of what we experience here, where I said MAGA was not the Republican Party. Right? MAGA was the Tea Party. MAGA was the sort of the libertarian, working class conscious people who rebelled against the Republicans and took over their party and made it their own. We don't have that in Canada. We've still just got the Republicans. We've got the Bush. You know, I cut my teeth in the early 2000s. So I was an anti-Republican. I liked MAGA. Now that MAGA seems to be prevalent, that's great. But in Canada, we don't have our version of that. We have one party. So there was a leadership race, I think around just before Trudeau got elected. One of the conservatives ran for leader of the party, and I think we used Dominion voting machines and the same nonsense you get down there. He lost the leadership race. He actually went out on his own and said, these guys are completely morally corrupt. I'm going to start an actual conservative party. And I'm a founding member of that party. It's called the People's Party of Canada. The guy's name is Maxime Bernier. I'm not a sycophant. He's got his issues, but it's the first time in Canada we've had people actually being principled and not just the uniparty like you have down there with the Republicans, Democrats. And so this is the first time the conversation's being pushed to the front in our culture. And there's a lot of, obviously, if you're actually a conservative in this country, you're a Nazi. If you're not open borders, you're a Nazi. Canada is that country. Our national pride
who's
was our
going to Canada?
A lot of people.
What border do y'all have to watch?
Well, that country basically is a giant border.
People swimming across the Bering Strait and fleeing through Alaska from Russia, or like what's happening over there?
No, they fly here. They come on airplanes and stay.
Really?
It's not, and we fly. I mean, but there's legal and illegal border crossings. There's a border, less than 100 miles from here called Roxham Road, where there are thousands of people coming across every day. They just walk in. They come in from Haiti, lots of other places. They will go right through the U.S. They know there's more Gibbs up here. They cross the border. We put them up. They say they're going to, it's like very much like the UK. They say they're going to deport them. They say we have tough immigration, but that's mostly talk. And they end up living on the dole and, evading their extradition. But the Trudeau government has said they plan to double our population in the next 10 years. So really? So I work in real estate. I have access to the demographic information for cities. And so Montreal, about half of the boroughs here, you can go in and look, they're more than 50% immigrant, first generation immigrant. And that's the case in most of our major cities. Half of the population isn't from here. So what that's going to do to a country in 2 generations, who knows? But we're a nation of immigrants, right?
Who's the politician you were just talking about a while ago? Was
Bernier.
Oh, okay. Because I just remembered something when you brought up that name. This Jeremy McKenzie guy actually ran this great troll after they started labeling all these like Nazi and white supremacists and all this stuff. He went and met with you'll probably know who this is. He met with Pierre Poilievre and shook his hand and got the politician in trouble for shaking his hand. And the politician had no clue who he was.
So Pierre Poilievre is the new leader of our Conservative Party.
Okay.
He's like our Ron DeSantis, basically.
Okay.
So he's the supposed to be a conservative.
Oh, he got endorsed by Jeb Bush?
Basically, there's another guy I like up here, small time YouTuber named Mark Friesen. He's from my home province of Saskatchewan. And he went up to Poilievre, the same guy, and asked him what he thought about the UN's SDGs. And Poilievre, who's been in our parliament for 20 years, lifetime politician, supposed conservative, head of the official opposition party, said he'd never heard of them. So you're full of shit. And his idea of giving to the conservatives here is that he said no member of his caucus or his party is allowed to go to Davos or to be on a member of the WEF, which is great as long as you don't know that the WEF and the UN signed their thing in 2014 that they're going to work together, and everything that the World Economic Forum is doing is in line with and in order to promote the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And
well, I mean, Klaus Schwab came out and said that he had installed half of Parliament in Canada.
Yeah, and he means on both sides.
Yeah,
you said Trudeau's cabinet, but it's both sides. So the previous Conservative Prime Minister, who was here for 8 years before Trudeau, is the one who signed us on to the UN. It was the Conservatives who got us into the Migration Pact, into all these things. And so for the new Conservative who's supposed to be our savior, oh, yay, we're going to get rid of Trudeau and we get Poilievre, to straight up say to the camera, I've never heard of the UN's SDGs. when you're the official opposition, this is all Trudeau talks about. So it's like, this is what we're stuck with. And so God bless this guy. If you can get Polyev in trouble for taking a picture with him. This is the best thing we can do, is troll these fakers.
Well, so we're 54 minutes and 30 seconds in. And as much as we tried to stay on the issue of grievance podcasting,
it doesn't happen with me.
We actually had to talk about something that mattered to people.
Hey, look at that.
Hey guys, that's how you do it. I don't need 4 hours to bloviate about my feelings being hurt. I can do it in 54 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, it happened up here again too. There's this, I think her name's Christine Anderson. She's a member of the European Parliament. And she was the one who stood up during the lockdowns and called Trudeau a fascist, said he shouldn't be there. And she visited Canada, and a bunch of conservative members of Parliament went and met with her and got their picture taken. They're throwing them under the bus because she's a Nazi, and then now they're all Nazis because they took a picture with.
Well, I may be a Nazi, but you're a fascist. I said it first.
You're a boo-boo face. Yeah, so
I'm rubber, you're glue.
Yeah. I can't do it. It's as soon as people, it's like, it's literally, we live in perpetual grade 8.
Yeah.
What is the cause? Is this
It's,
I remember 10 years ago we were on Facebook and everyone's joking like, oh, what's going to happen when this whole generation who grew up with participation trophies and no spankings? Is this it?
Looks like it.
And is it the boomers or is it Gen X? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because these are our kids. These are not the boomers kids. These are Gen X kids and Gen Xers that are just acting like 12-year-olds. So
I don't know, man.
Help me, Tommy.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to all this. I just think it's insanely ridiculous. I think
it's entertaining.
I think I'm just going to start referring to it as grievance podcasting.
There you go.
I like that. It's like conservative version of grievance studies.
Yeah. Grievance bickering.
Yeah.
Well, that guy doesn't like me because of. I can't. It's just avoid it, people. If anybody watches this and you have the temptation to do a podcast about somebody you don't like, just don't press record.
Yeah, just walk away. Go have a beer.
Exactly. Call them. Go have a beer together. Put your big boy pants on and get over it.
Right.
And then start, warning people about what's coming. I heard you're going to do an episode on 15-minute cities. Mm-hmm. People don't know, man. If you think COVID was bad, just wait. And if people don't get their heads on straight and start paying attention to this shit, you're in for a rude awakening.
You're about to do one too, man.
I'm going to highlight it on tomorrow's episode. I just, grabbed some shit off Twitter, but I got my thoughts.
Yeah,
COVID was the dry run.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they're also talking about like this bird flu's now spreading to people, and they're saying all kinds of crazy shit right now. They're looking for any way whatsoever to lock us down once again.
Yeah.
And it's better if you volunteer to be locked down. It's easier on them. It makes them look less tyrannical if you volunteer for it. So they're gonna spread their fear however they can. Problem, reaction, solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same formula all the time.
Yeah.
But plug away, man, and we'll let you get out of here. I know you had a heart out.
I don't got much to plug. Obviously, I have my show with Jason Miranchuk called the 2-Bit Podcast. We stream live every Friday at 6, and we release clips from that show. That's about it. I'm on Twitter at @MAaronC. And maybe I'll be back here again.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely do it again, man.
Thanks a lot for having me, Tommy. Have a good weekend, and we'll keep fighting.
No doubt, dude.
No drama.
No drama. All right.